Hey all, and welcome back to another build guide. My name's Luke, and today I'll be showing you some basic tools, tips and techniques you can use that will help you get the best out of your paper buildings. Every card building starts out with a bucket load of potential. It just depends on how much effort you're willing to invest in building the structure. Some building kits make it easy, while others leave you wondering. However, Aussie Card models definitely make it easier to make great looking buildings. These kits come printed on 200 GSM paper, and most importantly, they have a very comprehensive set of instructions that are downloaded as a PDF file, which you can read from your iPad. There are a number of recommendations for successfully building one of these models in the instructions, but basically here are my bare minimum tools and materials that you'll need. Firstly, you'll need a good solid ruler, preferably metal. Next, you'll need a sharp knife. The number 11 scalpel blade seems to work best for me, and it's important to start with a sharp blade. Some of the card we'll be using will be a little thicker, so you may also need a slightly stronger knife. Arguably, the most important item for the card kits are a good selection of markers with a fine tip. 600 GSM card is used for the reinforcement panels, which will need to be purchased separately. However, if you have a cereal box, that will work just as well. As for glue, I'll be using a small amount of the 3M Super 77 spray adhesive, and for the majority of the gluing, I'll be using the Helmar Super Tack glue due to its fast drying time. And finally, once the model's built, we'll need to seal it. I strongly suggest using Testors Dull Coat. It's by far the best with little to no sheen. Now let's get started. Cutting is very straightforward, just be sure to cut accurately and don't try to rush the cuts. Sometimes I needed to make 2 passes to cut through the paper cleanly. These pieces are the window and door relief panels and reinforcement panels. They get glued to the 600 GSM card using the spray adhesive and set aside to dry under weights. The window and doors will be inset to give a more three-dimensional appearance, which is often the biggest letdown with paper kits due to the lack of three-dimensionality. There are a few pieces that will require balsa wood depending on which model you buy. This one uses balsa wood, and in a similar fashion to the reinforcement panels, I cut the template pieces out and glue them directly to the balsa wood, allowing them to dry whilst being weighed down. Nearly all of the folding flaps and walls will need to be scored to allow them to fold easily and accurately. Care needs to be taken to avoid cutting right through the card. Just a light pressure is needed, and as you can see, I haven't cut completely through, I've just made a light score on the top surface only. The circles with the red dots indicate a line that needs to be scored. A good tip to prevent double scoring and possibly cutting all the way through the card is to cross out each red spot once that line has been scored. Next, carefully remove the doors and windows. There are small red guidelines to follow which will help you accurately cut the door or window free from the main sheet. Then you can cut the entire wall away from the card. All exposed white edges will need colouring. Select the most appropriate colour and trace right around the perimeter with the marker. Try not to press the marker in one spot for too long, as the colour may bleed into the paper and leave a splotch showing through the print. On some walls you may need to bend it fully along the seam in order to easily apply the marker, although on this particular model these corners will eventually be covered up in a later step, but as an example you can see how much of a difference it makes. The thicker card definitely needs multiple passes to cut through, and the door and relief panels will also need colouring. Then just simply glue the door piece to the relief, making sure they are orientated correctly, which is indicated by a T indicating top on both pieces. The grey area at the bottom of the door gets removed before installation, so the glue tab can be folded up. And as you can see on the wall, I've coloured in some of the glue tab, and that's the area directly under the door, as a small amount of it will be visible once the model has been completely assembled. Make sure you work quickly when aligning the door, as the Super Tack glue dries very fast. You only get about 10 to 15 seconds to move it around before it's stuck. The walls get glued onto the base, making sure to line up the corners. The Aussie Card model kits are very accurate, so as long as you make your cuts accurate as well, all the corners will line up. It's just a matter of gluing it together. Once the roof support panel has been positioned and glued in place, you can glue the roof on top. The roof has a small amount of overhang, so be sure to colour the bottom appropriately, then glue it into position. Some of the pieces need to be scored on the reverse side. These are clearly marked, and all I did was use the number 11 blade to poke a hole right on the green dot, then turn the card over, line up the two marks and score the back of the card. Some of the brickwork, like these corners, have positive relief. They can be fiddly to cut out, but I think it's definitely worth the time and effort. Now the balsa wood comes into play. The template is for the veranda supports. The instructions call for a 1.5mm thick balsa sheet, but you could also use strip wood or styrene as well. These need colouring, and I've found balsa colours quite well simply using the markers. You could also use paint for a more precise colour, but the markers certainly are fast and clean and they don't look all that bad. The underside of the veranda roof was white, but as you can see here, as I glue it into position, I've sprayed it with brown acrylic paint. There is an instruction sheet for aligning the veranda, which gives you the exact measurements for positioning the supports. Now it's just a matter of gluing and placing the supports, being careful to line them up accurately and have them evenly spaced. The final detail to add was the vent. The bottom of the model has some access holes cut into it, which are useful in this situation because I needed to press the vent in order to get it glued down properly. So I was able to press from the front and the back at the same time, which prevented possible damage. Now for the last step, spraying the model with dull coat. This does a few things to preserve the model. It protects it from fading and sun damage to a certain extent. It protects it from moisture. It also helps the areas where the glue was very thin or absent to stick better. And lastly, it protects the model from dirt and dust, making it easier to clean. Not to mention it removes the unrealistic shine from the printed on paper. And there you have it. So if you're in the market for some Australian buildings, check out Aussie Card models on eBay, or if you're making other card kits, you can use these same techniques to make a truly awesome model that turns heads. Be sure to check out bouldercreekrailroad.com for any updates and my complete collection of videos, as well as some free downloads. Cheers and thanks for watching.